I'm sorry, so sorry. What more can I say? I never knew, darling, what you meant to me till I went away. It's my fault, all my fault, that we're apart. And I'd give anything, I'd give anything if I could be too back with you, sweetheart. If I told a lie, if I made you cry, when I said goodbye, I'm sorry, baby. From the bottom of my heart, dear. Hey, I apologize.
Life is always on the verge, life is almost never steady, never easy. It's, like whenever you feel like you're in a peaceful place, there's always something about to happen. Like if you get like a little period of where everything's just going great. I don't know how other human beings think, but it's pretty clear through history that it's not going to stay that way for long. And I think I'm not trying to say that. All I'm doing is expressing the reality of what it's like to actually be alive, And we're always trying to get everything in order. We're always trying to get everything just, sublime and serene. But it really is, like by the time you pulled all that together, like the next day something just like. I've always been an image-driven person, always looking to make an impact with the image and to bring stories in. I'm fascinated by people and the way they look and everything. So when I started out, the only way I could do that in my mind was by using either photographs or taking images from magazines. And so that's how the early paintings were assembled. And then when I moved to New York, and I was amongst, a lot more competition of, like when looking around the galleries and the students and the teachers, I realized I had to really prove to myself that I could just gridding off a photograph and blowing that up in a pretty basic way to actually looking with my eyes, setting something up and painting it almost as clearly as possible. So I went through a period where everything was very really and painstakingly painted directly from life without gridding up and I was surprised myself, like I often see my paintings from the perspective of, like almost an out-of-body perspective. I never really believe I'm capable of doing my paintings, or even, when I look at them later on, I just think, who did that and how would you do it? Because like when I'm just in my normal state, I can't even conceive of all that work, the effort, and just the focus and the concentration to do it, So I had to get into two different states of mind, And so I went through that thing of going super real by just looking and painting as clearly as possible. And so I went through that, and then I decided I needed to take a step back again. Once I got to that point, I could prove I could do it. I wanted to get loose again. So, that's when I was working for Alex Katz. And I was working in his studio right behind him, seeing him do paintings. I admired his work very much. And I just saw how how he did so much with such brevity. He just would create, just a beautiful light and a beautiful scene and create, could get a likeness and get action and all that sort of stuff with such brevity. But he also did it from life. They had this whole thing about everything had to be from life. And so I saw him, he would just get a model, he'd draw the model, he'd paint for the model, but he would grid it off, and then he would put a paper on top of his canvas, whether it's a huge sheet of paper, and he would get one of those wheels, that perforated the drawing, and then he would get a bag full of charcoal, and he would pounce. I think it's called pouncing the charcoal through the holes. And so he did it in a very kind of painstaking and methodical way. And so I copied that for a while. I didn't actually do the pouncing and the patterns like he made. I would work from life, and then I would either grid that off, or I'd take a photograph of that night, and I would blow up that from life and trace around the photograph of my study. Or sometimes I just eyeball it. So I went for a period where the paintings were very loose. In the 70s, I went from being very tight to being very loose. So I was just trying to figure out where I should fit. And it wasn't until about 1984 when I came back to Melbourne where I kind of pulled both those things together. I reckon from 1984 onwards, my style really sort of kind of gelled into the way I could carry on. I had to find a formula that would work so I felt comfortable, so I could get the images down. Usually a scene suggests something to me, like mostly it's a scene. If I'm, because I move around a lot, and if I'm in one place too long, my vision just becomes, I think, like most other people, they just take everything for granted wherever they are, and so because I'm moving around, I tend to see places that maybe other people might have gotten used to and tend to ignore after a while, or don't, they just think it's going to be there forever, so they just kind of ignore it. And so because I'm moving, I'll pick up on those sort of places and use those as a start point, and I think, well, what could be happening at this place? I want a bit of a drama. So I'll go there and I'll actually draw or paint, or I'll pass the scene a few times. I'll wait for the perfect light to hit it so it's more dramatic. And then I'll just kind of imagine what sort of characters could be here. And I try not to repeat myself over and over, but we all have just a small deck of playing cards that we use, all artists, I think. So, and you can't worry about that too much either. You just accept that, and so yeah, I see a scene, whether it be a building or a mountain or a nightscape or whatever, and I go on site. I'm working on site for 3 or 4 hours, and when I'm doing that, sometimes something will come into my head, or some character will pass, and I often have scenes into the future that I'm needing to get to, and I'll be thinking about those for a month or two before I do the study. Like I'm about to move back to Adelaide, and there's a overpass there that they've built, which is kind of like a white elephant, pretty much. The road kind of stops, and they spent multi-millions of dollars on it, and I'm in my head, I'm looking forward to going back there, and I'm developing the scene in my head already, what's going to be, the characters and things hanging around. Because I'm a figurative painter, and I want my paintings to be contemporary, so I don't want people just to be relaxed looking at, a classic figure lying down and well painted, and, everything's, just posed, and there's no second thought about it. People look at the landscape and they say, oh, isn't that a beautiful landscape? And isn't that a beautiful person just sitting, or a businessman just sitting down and nothing's happening. I'm not painting about those moments where everything has come together, it's kind of like a wake-up call that things are always changing, things are slipping from one scene to another. And when I paint a painting, I just want it to have initial visual impact of color and composition, but then I want it to go further. I want it to give more. I want it to say more. I want it to people to ponder it more so it lasts longer. It's not just, it just has an extra dimension to it, really. I want to build a feeling rather than narrative. I don't have a story like, so-and-so comes here and this happens and they interact like this. It's a feeling, and usually the feeling is, it's an unease, basically. And, I guess that's, maybe that's the way I see the world. I don't just put myself in one place. I get so used to it. I know every street, I know everything to do and everybody, and I'm often moving. I'm always trying to find out, where to go, what to do, how to get there. And it's an unease. So I guess I'm reflecting that in the paintings.